My name is Brian McHattie, and I'm one of the board members here at the Sources of Knowledge Forum, the program chair for this year. And as you know, this is the 10th annual Sources of Knowledge Forum. So I wonder if I can have a round of applause for the 10th effort that we've made. Yeah. And it's just such an impressive initiative that's gone on. I just wanted to take a moment just to list the original board members, many of whom are still very active, which is a good measure of an organization when you've got that kind of commitment. And I think some of them are here today, actually. So let me list them overall, and then maybe I may ask a few of them to stand if they're here this morning, and then maybe we can recognize them. So, as you know, many of you know, I think, that this organization began, the Sources of Knowledge began with the Parks Advisory Committee, the National Parks Advisory Committee, who began meeting over 10 years ago, and decided that in addition to the work with parks that they would do on a regular basis, they wanted to have a way to get information across. The incredible research that's done in the national parks, the knowledge that's created in the parks, to get that across once a year at a forum. And it was an incredible idea at that time. Of course, a lot more to it than I'm saying right now in my opening remarks, and we may hear more throughout the weekend, but just a tremendous visionary initiative. And I'll just list some of the people who were involved in the very early days. Gord Nelson, Dr. Gord Nelson, Bill Caulfield Brown, Howie Froelich, Sean LaPere, Darrell Cowell, Bill Graham, Arlene Kennedy, Scott Parker, Dr. Scott Parker, and Darcy Lombard. They were the original board members, and I hope I've got everybody on there. Round of applause for them. And I wonder if I could just ask the board members who are here today, who are on that list, to stand up for a moment. Don't be shy. Great. Number of folks. It's great to see everybody still involved in that in today's work. So the other thing I wanted to mention, just in opening remarks, just some logistical things, I guess, at the beginning. Make sure you hang on to your coffee cups if you can for the coffee throughout the day, so we don't have to wash them every half an hour or something like that. Only so many cups back there, so please do that. And thanks to John Greenhouse for getting the coffee going, possibly the most important person in the house. That's always an honored position to be in. And I wanted to point to my right, over on the stage there, the Bruce Peninsula Society of Artists. Mary Ambrose is here somewhere. Mary, you can just wave in the back row there. Mary and Jackie Lutz, our coordinator, have put together the art show. Those pieces of art are for sale. So please, throughout the forum, have a look at those and buy art. Art's important to buy, not just look at. And at this point, I'd like to call on our providing opening remarks from the municipality, our Deputy Mayor, Patricia Gregg. Patricia is also, as you know, the Niagara Escarpment Commissioner for this area as well, following in the footsteps of Councillor Tom Boyle, is also here this morning. Patricia, opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks to the Sources of Knowledge for this invitation. I'd like to echo some of the things that Brian said, that this is a truly impressive event. I think it's become one of the premier events and officially kicks off summer on the Bruce Peninsula. So, welcome. On behalf of the municipality, Milt sends his regrets. He couldn't be here this morning, but Tom Boyle is here. Tom, stand up. Tom has been one of the strong supporters of the environment and the biosphere and the Sources of Knowledge, and he brings that to council on a weekly basis. So again, welcome to Northern Bruce Peninsula. I think you've got a wonderful day ahead. As usual, The topics are thought-provoking and, most important, relevant to the future of the peninsula. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Patricia. Patricia's been here for many years attending this forum as well, which we really appreciate. And I should point out that Councillor Boyle, Tom Boyle, is on the board of the Source of Knowledge and has been for a number of years. So we have great support from our local politicians, which is very important. Our second series of opening remarks is from Catherine Patterson, who's the Field Unit Superintendent for Parks Canada. Covers the area that is throughout Georgian Bay and all the way down into eastern Ontario, including Ottawa. So a huge area in terms of the number of historic sites, as you can imagine, and national parks, and important area. And I wanted just to briefly say that, again, remember, this came from the Parks Advisory Committee, the Source of Knowledge. So we've always had a very strong relationship with Parks Canada. We have a couple of board members, Kevin Harper and Lenore Kishik, on the Source of Knowledge Board, who are Parks Canada employees. And that relationship continues to get stronger 10 years in. And in fact, Parks Canada is offering additional funding to help the Source of Knowledge grow. And we're just talking about the details of that, but you'll hear more about that as time goes on. But that's just the kind of commitment that Parks Canada has made to our initiative here, which came from the parks to begin with. So it's just nice to reflect on that 10 years in as we move ahead. So I can ask Catherine to come forward and make some comments from Parks Canada.
Good morning, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to be here. I think my first sources of knowledge was in 2014, and that was the underwater and archaeology and diving. It was absolutely fascinating, and I've made it to 3 of the past 5, but just want to say congratulations on 10 years. 10 years, and it's wonderful to be here today in the village of Tobermory in the traditional territory of the Saugeen Nadjiwon Nation. John Festerini, who is our acting superintendent right now at the Bruce Peninsula in Fathom 5, couldn't be here today. Before he took on the assignment to move up here, he already had commitments in Ottawa, so he was very excited and very disappointed at the same time. So I'm just making some remarks on his behalf. So I realize we got started off late, so I'll try to keep my comments short. And I'm not a speaker, I'm just kind of an opening remark. So if you have any questions, I'm sure you might. I'm going to be here the whole weekend and happy to answer your friendly questions, your tough and challenging ones. That's what I'm here for. So I just wanted to share maybe our strategic intent for the future is to stop, over the past 3 years actually, has been very purposely to get from behind the 8 ball and to start leading the way. But we want to do that very humbly. We have a lot to learn. I was in Washington, D.C. last week trying to figure out how the National Park Service in the U.S. is handling its top 10 loved to death parks. And they have the same congestions we do and same kind of challenges. So, and when I say we want to start to lead the way, we say it so humbly because we also want to become less of an island and become an amazing partner. We really count on the Saugeen Nadjiwon Nation, the municipality, the Park Advisory Committee, the RTO, the Bruce Peninsula Environmental Group, and we're enjoying really great initiatives and really great new friendships with all of those groups. If we're not being a good partner and there's room to improve, I want to hear about this because we really want to improve on that front. And so we want to move ahead. Some things that have happened in the past 4 or 5 years you may not be aware of. We've added $25 million of investment into the park, and we've booked another $8 million. That $8 million, I don't know if we'll get it or not, but if you don't ask and you don't try to book some funding, it doesn't happen. We have more than doubled the team. The team we have today, the team we had in 2014 is 40% of the one we have today. So that is a huge doubling. That hasn't happened anywhere else in the park system, but it happened here. And that is everything from safety to people picking up garbage to people like Brian, Sean LaPere, and Megan, who we've added to add strategic and planning capacity. So we're not just scrambling to keep up with the garbage and beautiful washrooms, which I think we're doing an amazing job, but to have some foresight as well. Our visitor complaints are down 80% over the past three years, and we're getting much more positive reviews. As you can imagine, we're still very concerned about congestion and managing that and getting ahead of the demand. I emailed our external relations manager this morning. There's a darn group called Narcity, and they're just clickbait bloggers. And they had another article this morning saying, head up to the grotto. They share the beautiful stock images of the gorgeous water. And there's no link there to say plan ahead or there's new things this year. So that is a challenge. Our team have also spent 4 years working on a legislative framework so we could actually have tighter regulations over Fathom 5. Unlike some of the other NMCAs in the country, we don't because of the ongoing land claims and litigation with Saugeen, Nadjiwon, and the province never transferred over the lake bed or anything. And that means we are unable to manage and apply the Canada National Parks Act. So we are concerned about operations and traffic and new or fly-by-night businesses starting up and maybe not even working with us. So we have to keep ahead of that, but we have worked for 4 years and we finally have some tight regulations for the actual shipwreck areas. But that's how long it takes just to tweak and get some little acts and schedules into place, and we continue to work on that and to license the operations. Other NMCAs actually license every traffic, every vessel, every shipping lane that goes through their places, and we hope to get to that place in future. Looking ahead, we're also entering management planning right now. We do want to be deeply consultative about that. So management planning starts out with a report card, and we're at the report card phase. Are we being a good partner? What are our ecosystems like? What are our marine indicators like? And we're doing that report card and working through with our partners. Do they agree on the way all of those ratings look? The next part of that is called scoping, and that is where we really need all of our partners to help us and to kind of agree and find some alignment. The scoping sets the guideposts and the direction for where we head next over the next 10 to 15 year period. So whatever those scoping high-level themes come out, they're really important because they're the parameters for where we go in the future. And that will not be done in secret. That will be done with extensive public consultations and with our partners and forging the way ahead. We're also, Brian and Sean, who are here today, are also working on a visitor experience strategy. And we think it might sound a bit bureaucratic, but we think these documents are really important because when people ask us to shut down one kind of industry or allow another or to head in a certain direction, it can seem pretty arbitrary if it just comes down to me deciding yes, no. When we have documents that people have aligned behind in their grassroots, and that's our blueprint for going forward, it gives us some teeth to our decisions and some moral kind of justification for why we're heading into a direction in a legal framework. So that all of that is coming, and we'll be very proactive about reaching out about those things. The last thing I think I wanted to mention or talk about is conservation. I would say conservation has been neglected at the Bruce for the past few years. And before that sounds really insulting to our very fine scientists in the room today, what I mean by that is I remember my first summer here job shadowing and then again in 2015, and I've used this over, so Kevin might be embarrassed the amount of times I've used it, but I saw him in a reflective vest with walkie-talkies running up and down managing traffic on Emmett Lake Road and giving overtime and weekends to that. And when we were pulling our science team to scrambling to keep up to visitor experience, guess what? That room for innovation and that creative thinking and growth didn't happen. Their team actually shrunk over the past few years, losing a scientist, and Scott Park has joined our national office team. So one thing I've asked the team to do, there's an old saying, I don't think fortune rewards chance, I think fortune rewards preparedness. And anytime we've prepared and had a strong vision for the future, I find resources and money magically seem to be attracted to that crystallization of a vision. So what we've asked Kevin's team, and he's already thinking and working on it, if we were going to be world class up here, if we were going to provide maybe some umbrella type of work across the whole Great Lakes system and for climate change, what would that look like? I have no sense, nobody has asked us to do this in national office. I have no sense that any money is even coming our way, but if we imagine it is, I think it might, or I think it will. Our minister also announced a $1.4 billion fund for conservation. It's the biggest announcement, I think, ever of its kind. And some of our partners may actually know more than Parks Canada does about how that is trickling out or how that's being doled out. But here's an example. Whether we get the money here or not, money in the conservation system helps everybody. So in a little smaller scale, the $25 million that is here at the Bruce, that's helped my field unit. You bet your boots that means that Bellevue House and Laurier House in Ottawa have nicer gardens and better roofs, because the Bruce isn't sucking from my tiny little local budget just to keep up. It's got its own money. So if some of the bigger areas or the Arctic or other places have money, guess what? That means it's going to free up money for these local initiatives. So I'm super excited about where conservation is going to be going at the Bruce Peninsula and Fathom 5. And I've told the team to dream big and the sky's the limit. I also want to manage expectations, because we might only be able to tackle 25% of their dream, in year 1 or 2. But, you put it out there. Wayne Gretzky said skate to where the puck is going. I'm saying we're going to skate to where Kevin and Martha is the new, kind of up and coming ResCon manager, skate to where what they pencil out on flip charts and whiteboards. We're skating to that vision, and I'm pretty sure you want to weigh in on that. So thanks very much, and hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am thrilled to be here.
So a really exciting future for Parks Canada. It's great for all of us to hear. Moving on to the next one, because I realize we're a little bit behind, but we'll catch up during the morning. One of our board members, who I'm sure many people in this room know, Esme Batten, who has been a great board member for us, also a board member for BPEG, I believe as well, the Bruce Peninsula Environment Group, and of course active on a day-to-day basis with the Nature Conservancy of Canada, working here in the Peninsula. So we're very lucky to have Esme, and I'd like to ask Esme this morning to introduce our first speaker, who we're very excited to have, Chief Greg Nadjiwon from Nadjiwon, who was here last year and has been involved with the source of knowledge, very involved in parks activities, as you can imagine, and a number of things throughout the peninsula. So that's a real coup for us to have Chief Nadjiwon this morning, and Esme, can I ask you to come up and introduce the Chief?
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many happy, smiling faces this early, but probably thanks to lots of coffee. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker today, Chief Greg Nadjiwon from the Chippewas of Nawash and Seed First Nations from the Nishinganing. And we're really lucky to have him here today. He sat on council for a number of years, as well as been the chief for a number of years. And he's going to be speaking today about the future of the Saugeen Peninsula and his thoughts on that topic. So I'd like to introduce Chief Greg Nadjiwon.
Good morning. Ooh. I guess we never notice how nervous we are until we're there. I'm a little nervous, and at one time I thought Catherine Patterson was a very good friend of mine, but apparently she set the benchmark quite high this morning for somebody that wasn't a public speaker. Catherine, as you can see by the talk she gave here, is very passionate. And I'm very fortunate to have met Catherine a few years ago, and we have a few talks through the year. Catherine, we may not agree on everything, but the dialogues are interesting. And I thank everyone for, and I welcome you to the Peninsula. The Peninsula in the day was denoted as the Saugeen Peninsula, and I hope that someday we can revert back to using that as a hallmark of reconciliation with First Nation people in the territory. That would be an excellent start. I know some of the councillors. I know Councillor Tom Boyle from, I used to stop at the restaurant all the time to get my sausage for my fishing trips when I was going up for a long weekend. It was my kids said, "Oh, we got to stop there." So we had to, even though we started early, we used to have to delay and wait for the store to open so we can get our rations. And I'd advise anyone to stop there to get that, I call it a luxury item. So Brian, I met probably a couple of years ago, and we were discussing initiatives with First Nation and maybe how we could work together, partnership, or how we could assist. And he's a go-getter. He's always on the ball, so to speak, wanting to see where we're at in promoting any initiative that has been mentioned. One of them has been, and we're in the starting blocks, is in a proposal for an interpretive center for First Nations leading into the peninsula. As I said, it's something we're looking long and hard at. We're looking at acquiring, and this is kind of a little different. First Nations looking at acquiring some land to promote this, especially in the territory where we have a big claim in court. That claim's taken so long, we're saying, well, we're going to quick start this. But I think it's much needed, and that interpretive center is needed for a lot of reasons. And the biggest rationale I have for having an interpretive center is to explain the history of this land that is the peninsula. It's needed coming onto the peninsula, and the history, the true history, the real history of Indigenous people in this land is needed in the schools. It's still not there. We're still not there. So anytime we get into the arena of inherent rights, it's a big fight. And a lot of that fight is because a lot of the young people are unaware of the real history, our real role as being part and parcel of the development of this land called Canada. So it's one of the areas where I get excited about when we introduce and promote our own history in our own community. And hopefully we can take that history and extend it to the schools in the catchment area. It would make race relations so much easier, so much better, so much more. We have a whole lot more in common than we don't. And I just want to take a moment to speak on our lack of consideration when it comes to conservation. So recently, this spring, there was a big issue regarding a small bird that is an endangered species and is on the brink of extinction, the piping plover. So, and I do meet with the mayors, and I had met with Mayor Janice Jackson, and I said, please don't always leave it to First Nations to be at the forefront when it comes to areas of protection. We have to work together. I realize the mayor is responsible for a large population, and the economy is part of what drives the Chamber of Commerce and businesses. But I also realize that as people, we have a responsibility for the protection of species, animals, and plants that have no one to speak for them but the people in this room. And it's time that when we have an opportunity for protection, that we stand together and speak loud of why it's necessary. First, the piping plover. What's next? The Saugeen rattlesnake, bear population of the peninsula, the orchids, which are numerous. One of the things that draws naturalists to the area. So that's nobody else's responsibility but ours. And we can do this with method. I realize that, the economy does drive a lot of things. But I would hate to see the day when your grandchildren, the only way they can see a piping plover or a Mississauga rattlesnake is by going to a museum and reading about what used to be, what we used to have, what was predominant in the area. So I know I'm aware of it. I know I try to speak for the protection of the ecology and the environment. And I think we owe it to nobody else but ourselves. So I'm glad that Catherine had spoken to conservation and as to a direction that the park also, road it also intends to go down. I know Brian wanted me to focus heavily on the interpretive center, but I can't let too much out of the bag, other than to say we're looking for a place, and it is on the radar. My intentions are not to let it off the radar and to push until we have that established. So I would also like to get back to the conservation, because I spent a lot of time on the water. I mean a lot of time on the water. And I've noticed more changes, and I brought it to the attention of others in the Crown, that in the last 5 years I've seen more change in the area where I'm on than I have probably for the previous 50. And this water is changing so fast. The concerns are multiplying so quick. We're now just feeling the true impact of the invasion of a invasive species, the mussels. And we're getting a double whammy. The mussels have now filtrated the water to the point of there's no protoplankton and plankton and food necessary for the growth of fishes, the natural species of fish. They're at risk. They're at real risk of being a thing of the past. The water clarity, on the one hand, it seems that we can go out off the shoals or into Georgian Bay and see how clear the water is. On one hand, it looks beautiful. On the other hand, it's allowed sunlight to penetrate the depths that it never did in this body of water before. And because of that factor, a result of the mussels filtrating the water to that extent, we're now experiencing big algae plumes in the water, which weren't a natural phenomenon in the bays. And that is now also becoming a real concern of all types of people who utilize the water. These algae plumes, I'm no scientist, but I do know they're toxic. And so you can see, if we look back to the first time this group met 10 years ago, in that 10 years, how much things have changed in the Saugeen Peninsula and on the shores and the waters off the peninsula, on both sides, Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. Never before has a change really happened this fast. And so when regulations are talked about, they're for the betterment of all, because we have to be smart enough to not only consider and be selfish about what this land and water offers to us in our lifetime. What's it going to be like? What's it going to be for our grandchildren? What experience are they going to be able to have on the land and on the water? So these are all things that I think long and hard about. I know what my position is on it. Mine is one where I said that this is an opportunity. We've got to grab the bull by the horns and wrestle it to the ground. We have to be adamant for the protection. Stewardship is a responsibility of those on the land. And if you have a cottage, a house, a place on this land, that isn't only the First Nations' responsibility, it's the responsibility of the constituency to do the right thing and the smart thing. And I like the Sources of Knowledge platform. You get together and you talk about the real issues. Not the fact that we're trying to stop people from coming into the territory. But when they come into the territory and the experiences they participate in are ones that leave the smallest footprint possible, but also that take the land and the water into consideration. And I don't think any other generation has had this degree of responsibility. If you look at the satellite map of Ontario, the only real pristine ecological environment in this part of the province is the peninsula north of Highway 21. That's the fact. But we also have a lot of entrepreneurs that are moving into the area for development. I'm not saying that they can't participate in business, but it has to be one with method. It has to be done with method. Our big presence in making quarry owners accountable isn't to stop the production of gravel or stone. It's just we want the big picture. The big picture shown. we want to know what effects quarries have on groundwater, their proximity to other dump sites. How is it going to, are the adverse effects going to outnumber the advantages? And that's the scale we have to weigh everything on. And again, I said, never before has there been a generation that have had so many obligations and responsibilities put on their plate as the population I'm looking at and speaking with today. So I just want us all to be cognizant of it. I'll be prepared to sit down and mull over the hard questions, how we go forward. I had discussions with the parks people, and we posed some hard questions. We posed is it necessary for the introduction of a lot of asphalt and concrete on surfacing paths? And how will that look in the future? I mean, I can pinpoint one of the 7 wonders of the world called Niagara Falls. There wasn't a lot of long-term thinking in the development around Niagara Falls. You know, but there can be long-term thinking about the development of the parks in the peninsula. And we might not be around to be thanked or congratulated for our concerns, but I can say if we do it right, it'll be historical. And we can all say that we were there and aware. So having had said that, I'll cut it short because I want to bring the timeline back into the time frame allotted to some of the speakers that have come from far and wide. And again, I appreciate coming up and having an opportunity to say my piece. I get spanked an awful lot, being sometimes a little too outspoken, but what's the odd spanking, eh? So thank you for the invite, and much success in the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend.